reminder, everything we cover ever in Unit 1 is North Carolina Real Estate Commission rules. These are all specific to North Carolina. So anything from Unit 1 would always be tested on what section of the exam?
North Carolina.
Yeah, the North Carolina section. This is not, none of this is national stuff. When people come in and say, I don't know what to study for the state section, Unit 1. All of Unit 1, plus all of the other slides that are spread out throughout the class that have the North Carolina logo on them. But everything in Unit 1, because I don't have the North Carolina state flag on every slide because that would be redundant. If it's in Unit 1, it is state specific because these are North Carolina Real Estate Commission rules. These are our laws for real estate agents in the state. As we've mentioned before, in North Carolina, every person who has a real estate license, a person who wants to practice real estate, has a broker's license in North Carolina. Remind me though, do you all remember what we call companies who need a real estate license? What was the name of the license they need to obtain? They need to obtain firm license. And so when we look at these different companies, these different entities, a sole proprietorship is the only type of business that does not need a firm license if it's going to practice real estate. A sole proprietorship is basically somebody who is doing business as themselves. They have not created any sort of a company to do business as. In other words, when they're going to the bank and making deposits for money that they brought in through their business, what's the name on the checking account?
Their own name.
Their own personal name.
Their own name.
It's not a company. The company doesn't have a bank statement because there is no company. It's just them as a person. That's a sole proprietorship. Now, sole proprietorship does not necessarily mean they work by themselves. You could have 50 people working as a sole proprietorship. It just means all the money's funneling through one person and the business is that person. Most companies, though, want to be more sort of, I don't know, real than that. They want to be more legitimate than that. So most companies, and it could be for tax reasons, it could be for liability reasons, most companies end up wanting to create what we call an entity for themselves. That word entity, you'll hear it a lot, an entity. An entity just means a company that exists on its own. It is different than the people that work for the company. And so entities can either be partnerships or limited liability companies or corporations in North Carolina. All of those would require a real estate firm license. If you have a corporation that wants to represent buyers and sellers and be paid commissions, what kind of real estate license would that corporation need? Firm license. If you have an LLC that wants to represent buyers and sellers in real estate transactions and be paid commissions, that company, that LLC would need a firm license. Right. If you have a partnership that wants to provide property management for owners and charge a property management fee, that partnership would need a firm license. Right? So any type of formal business arrangement where we've created a company gets a firm license. How do we all feel about that?
Good.
Now, keep in mind, that is not the only licensure.
Do you mind going back for 1 second?
What's that?
Do you mind going back? A sole proprietorship, so that is not a firm, it's not an entity, so that's a person.
Well, it could be more than one person. It just means the business itself is a person. The business is not separate from the person. I could have a real estate office with 20 people that work for Seth Thomas. You could have Seth Thomas Realty and have 20 other people working for it and it still be a sole proprietorship. If Seth Thomas and the business are the same thing, if the money gets deposited in an account with Seth Thomas's name on it, that's different than Seth going and creating a company to house all that money, a company to do the work. And so
Okay.
a sole proprietorship is just somebody who's not created a company.
Protection.
Okay. And they can, and there are various reasons why they might want to do that. Now, once we have decided how we're going to structure ourselves, like in the, and I use our firm a lot as an example because I think it helps you connect with real people, 3 of which you know, 1 of which you do not yet know. And you probably will meet her at some point when you're in classes later on down the road. Trav Talks LLC is a company. It's a corporate entity. It is a limited liability company. Trav Talks LLC is routinely engaged in the process of representing buyers and sellers in real estate transactions. And Trav Talks LLC is paid commissions for that. So since it's a company, since it's an entity, and it is representing people in real estate transactions and being paid for it, does it need a real estate license?
Yes.
Yes. And since it's a
Yes.
company, what kind of real estate license does it get?
A firm license.
license.
A firm. But that's not the end of the story. Are there always going to be people that work for these firms?
Yes.
Yes. And the individual people, if they are going to be engaged in representing people in real estate transactions and be paid for it, need to have what kind of licenses?
Broker license.
Broker licenses. So when you look at this visual, does that make sense now for you all that this is the setup of our firm? That Trav Talks LLC is licensed under the North Carolina Real Estate Commission with a firm license. And then there are 4 real estate brokers who have brokers licenses who have affiliated to work for Trav Talks LLC. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Seth
Pan
needs a new
American doesn't
headshot.
exist.
Seth needs a new headshot because this one was from 5th grade when he got his license.
No, that was in 2019.
Does Pan American exist anymore?
Does what now?
Does Pan American exist anymore?
Penn Realty LLC exists, but it is no longer a real estate firm, does not provide any brokerage services. Yeah,
Okay, and so you are now on your own as Trav Talks Real Estate.
correct. That's right. That's right. So when you look at this, now, the other thing you can see from this is almost like a flow chart of the money. Now, I don't have this on here, and it's not really part of the slide, but it's helpful to think about it. You're going to have clients, buyers and sellers who want services, correct?
Correct.
Right? The clients are hiring Trav Talks. So where's the money coming? Is the money going directly to Seth or directly to Travis or directly to Mama or directly to Leslie? Or is the money coming from the client and into Trav Talks?
Into Trav Talks.
Into Trav Talks. And then Trav Talks decides how much, if any, money to disseminate to each individual broker for that transaction. That is completely an internal decision of the company. What the real estate commission has nothing to do with that. What the real estate commission has to do with is, are all of these people and all of these companies licensed so that they can allow payment? And then how you get paid is up to you. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, if Seth wants to guarantee that he gets paid, he really should have a contract with Trav Talks. Leslie should have a contract with Trav Talks. Even Travis should have a contract with Trav Talks, because that's going to determine how much they get paid on any given transaction. Okay. Now,
Got it.
one of the words that you will see a lot on the North Carolina section of the license exam is a status called active. Active status is a very important status, because active status is the only status that allows either a firm or a broker, that's why we use the word licensee here, because licensee includes everybody with a license. If a licensee is going to be eligible to be compensated, then they must have a license that is on active status from the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. Just having a license is not enough. And I think that's probably the first sort of mental hurdle that everybody's got to overcome. Say that to yourself. Just having a real estate license is not enough. Having one does not mean you can get paid necessarily. It means you are on your way to being eligible to get paid. So just say that again. Just having a license is not enough.
Having a license is not enough.
Okay. You need to be on active status. Look at this statement right here. It says licensees can only be compensated for work that is done while they are on active status. Now, let me tell you, they're going to go after your weak spots on this exam. And this is one right here. You got a weak spot right here that you don't even know about. Let me ask you a question. Can Grant be paid a commission if his license is on inactive status? If it, let's say the transaction closes today and his license went inactive this morning, can he be paid?
No.
Yes.
There's your weak spot. Yes,
he
he
can.
potentially
Yes, I
can.
say yes.
Yes, he can be paid for work done while he was active.
The rule doesn't say he has to be active to get paid. The rule says he can only be compensated or paid for work
For
that
the
he
time.
did while what?
Was active.
While active. If he's being paid for work he did last week while his license was active, can he be compensated today even though his license is inactive?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
because he
Yes.
was active at the time.
Yes. So you have to be very careful to make sure that he is, that the way they're asking the question, because he can be compensated for work that he did while he's active. Now, also be very careful. Can he continue to work? If the closing's today and his license went inactive today, can he go to the closing?
No.
No. And if he did, folks, that would disqualify him from being paid for work he did while he was active, because he broke the law by going to the closing today. If he wants to get paid for that closing and his license went inactive this morning, what had he better not go anywhere near today?
The
No,
closing.
after the
Closing.
closing.
That closing. He
phone.
better get somebody else from his office to go and hope that his office still pays him for that transaction. Because if he goes, he's not eligible to get paid. Does everybody see? Does that make sense for everybody? He has to stop working the minute his license goes inactive, and he can only be paid for work that he did while he was active. So let's talk about the categories of licenses for brokers. Firm licenses don't have categories. All firms get the same firm license, okay? William asked a question. Do you have to be active to get paid for referrals? So look at the statement. Active status is the only status that allows a licensee to perform real estate services for which they will be paid. Is providing a referral and being paid for it a real estate service, folks? What do y'all think?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So therefore, do you need a real estate license on active status in order to be paid for referrals?
Yes.
Yes.
Do. You absolutely do. We always have to go back and apply that rule. Broker licenses come in different shades, different categories. You all are in this class to try to become this young man on the bike right here. You have to start with training wheels. The license with training wheels is called a provisional broker's license. A provisional broker is one who cannot be trusted to represent clients without direct supervision. They are not allowed to even get on the bicycle unless they have someone supervising them at all times. That's why they have training wheels. They can't be trusted. They're not experienced enough. They need someone supervising them. Look at this statement right here. A provisional broker can only practice real estate by when they're being supervised by who?
Vic.
Broker in charge.
By a broker in charge. Okay. So now let me ask you this question. This is where you got to apply some critical thought. And it's on the next slide, but I'm going to ask you here before we get there. When you first pass the test and you're licensed as a provisional broker, is your license going to be on active status or inactive status? Which one do you think? When you first pass,
Active.
Inactive.
Active.
It'll be on inactive status.
inactive. Who do you not yet have in your life, folks?
Vic.
A broker in charge.
broker
There's
in
no way
charge.
you have a broker in charge. You literally just passed the test. And if you don't have a broker in charge as a provisional broker, what is your license status?
Inactive.
Inactive.
Current inactive.
So when you pass the test, folks, by default, you are inactive, which means can you go out and start representing people the next day?
No.
No.
No, you have to find a broker in charge who is willing to supervise you first. Okay. Everybody okay with that so far?
Yes.
And now a provisional broker can only work. You can work as a provisional as long as you get somebody who's willing to supervise you, who's willing to speak up for you and supervise you.
Broker in
You're
charge.
Vic.
A broker in charge. If you can find a BIC to supervise you as a provisional broker, you can start working right away as soon as the BIC says, okay, I'll supervise Tasha and take responsibility for her actions. You can start working right away. You can start representing clients right away. You can start earning commissions right away. Is everybody with me so far? However, just like a child with training wheels on the bike, if you let them keep them on there forever, you're not helping them. Do you at some point as a parent take the training wheels off and they either fall or they learn how to do it on their own?
Yes.
Yes.
And the same thing is true of being a provisional broker in North Carolina. Folks, in North Carolina, the wheels, the training wheels must come off within 18 months. You can no longer practice real estate with training wheels on for after how long?
18
After 18 months.
18 months. Here's the deal. If you don't finish the training, if you don't get the training wheels off in the first 18 months, you get off the bike.
Mhm.
You cannot continue using the training wheels after 18 months. What that means is you stop practicing, you stop using your license. So the real question is, how do I take the training wheels off? And remember, how long do you have to take the training wheels off?
18
18 months.
18 months. The real question is, how do I take the training wheels off? And that is this bottom note down.
Complete education, 90 hours.
Not continuing education.
Post-license.
Post-licensing education. Post-licensing. That is not continuing education. They're two different things. Post-licensing, 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 post-licensing for provisionals. Provisionals take post-licensing. Post-licensing is for provisionals. Provisionals take what?
Post-licensing.
Do
Post-licensing for
you think they're going
provisional.
to call it? Do
Post-licensing.
you think they're going to call it other things on the test intentionally to try to distract you?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, and it's wrong. It is post-licensing that you need to get rid of
I
the
honestly
provisional
think you should
status.
say that for 15 minutes. Like,
You
I'm not
could.
even joking.
You could, because people screw it up on the test every single time, right? You've got to take post-licensing to get rid of the provisional status. Now, I've given you this note here. If you're newly licensed, you just passed the test. What do we say your status was as soon as you passed the test?
Inactive. Inactive.
And the reason is because they don't have a BIC yet. They do not have a broker in charge yet, right?
Mhm.
You can't start working for someone. You can't declare that you have a broker in charge until you actually have a license and have a license number. So when you first pass, you are inactive. Once your license is issued, once you have the license number, then you can go to the person that's going to be your broker in charge, and they can submit to the real estate commission that they are now supervising you. When they say they're supervising you, your license will change from inactive to what?
Active.
Active.
To active. For how long max?
18 months.
Man.
18 months from the time you pass that test, folks, not from the time your broker in charge says they're willing to supervise you. So the minute you pass the test, you're on the clock. Congratulations, you have a real estate license. Now you have 90 more hours of class to take within the next how long?
18
18
months.
months.
18 months. Because at the end of that 18 months, if you have not completed those classes, look at that bottom note down there on this slide. This is another thing you're going to miss on the test, because they're going to make it much worse than it actually is on the test. They're going to say, oh, you lose your license. Oh, we take you out back and we shoot you. Oh, we hang you from a tree somewhere. No. What happens after 18 months if you have not completed post-licensing?
You become inactive.
Your license goes inactive, which means you have to stop using it. You have it. Now, are there some people who weren't using it anyway?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
And for them, there's no penalty. If they were already, are there going to be some people who never even activate their license?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for them, folks, it doesn't matter if they miss the 18-month deadline. If you were already inactive before, what's going to happen when you hit 18 months? Absolutely nothing, because you're already inactive. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another thing to not get sucked into on the test. There is no rule that says you must complete the post-licensing in 18 months. It sounds like that's what I've said, but that's not what I've said. There's a rule that says to stay active, you have to complete the post-licensing in 18 months. Can somebody miss the 18-month deadline, and will they still have a North Carolina real estate license?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it just will be on what status?
Inactive.
Inactive. Does everybody see that? Are we with me on that? So, practical question. Could there be somebody who passed the license exam in 2009 who has never completed their post-licensing right now? Could there be those people?
Yes.
Yes. Could they conceivably still have a North Carolina real estate license?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Could they be out representing clients?
No.
No, they could not be. Their license by rule is on what status?
Inactive.
Is everybody, are we all good with that?
Yeah.
Yes, I do have one question. So typically when students get their license, is it, I guess, the best way to, I guess what I'm trying to say is, should they go ahead and take their post-licensing classes and get it behind them immediately so that it's not something that you have to worry about, I guess?
Honestly, that depends on you and your personality, and also your broker in charge. Some BICs want you to take them right away. There are very practical reasons for that. Sometimes you'll want them to take them right away because some firms will not agree to supervise you as a provisional broker. Do you think a BIC has more liability and more concern about a provisional broker than a non-provisional broker? What do y'all think?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So a lot of BICs will simply say, you're not starting with me until you get rid of this provisional status. They will make you get rid of it first. Some of them will, and get it behind you. There are some people who want to get out and actually use the license and get some practical experience under their belt before they take those classes, because they feel like they get more out of the classes that way. That's going to be a personal choice thing. The real estate commission just sets the rule and says this is the maximum amount of time you have to complete it.
Does that mean is there a test?
There's 3 classes, and there are tests at the end of each one, 3 30-hour classes. Each one has a test at the end of it. But let me be clear about the test. The test are anywhere between 25 and 30 questions at the end of those classes. The test is written by the school that is teaching you the post-licensing class. And I can only speak for our school, but right before we give you the test in a post-licensing class, we go over with you a bullet by bullet 25 to 30 point review of things that might be important at some point in your near future. So translation, if you fail one of our post-licensing classes, you literally are brain dead and you should not have a real estate license. It is nothing like pre-licensing. It is not.
Okay.
Don't sweat
right.
the test in post.
Okay.
Would you
Are
say
those classes practical?
Yes, that's exactly
concepts?
what they are. They're meant to be practical. How do you apply these rules? How do you do the real business? How do you fill out the forms? How do you fill out the paperwork? How do you actually do this stuff?
Hey, don't worry about it. It's just a leasing office. They ain't going nowhere.
That-
Question, so there's no minimum amount of time that you have to be under a BIC before you can drop the provisional? Is it just the school?
That is a great question, William. There is no minimum amount of time. There is a maximum amount. So you can conceivably do this right away. We have people who sometimes take their post-licensing classes within 2 to 3 weeks of completing their licensure. That is not uncommon. So we have people who literally will pass the test, and within 2-3 weeks after they pass the test, they've already finished post-licensing, which is a good thing, right? I mean, obviously they've got rid of it. And then here's the nice thing. That provisional status, the training wheels, they come off just as soon as you finish these 3 classes. There's no time period. There's no minimum number of transactions. There's no certain experience level. It's literally, have you finished the 3 classes or not? If you haven't finished the 3 classes, you're provisional. If you have finished them, you are non-provisional.
When do you start interviewing with firms?
That's everybody sort of does. Some people do it while they're in the class. Most people do wait till they're done. Yeah. Now,
You say that
again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Would you say that it's more common for individuals to take post-licensing before going active? Or is it kind of just a mixture?
It's a mixture. It's a hodgepodge. Yeah, I mean, we get a bunch of all kinds. What I will tell you is people tend to fall to one extreme or the other. You have very few people who take it like, oh, I've had my license for 8 months and I've been active and I've been doing it. Here's what you get. I just got my license and they haven't done anything. Or, holy shit, I've had my license for 17 and a half months and I haven't finished my post-licensing. Everybody falls in one of those 2 of those groups. There's nobody in the middle. There is nobody, because what happens is you either knock it out right away or you get busy and you don't really have time for it and you keep putting it off, and then you have to like rush to finish it right before the 18 months. That tends to be the trend with most people. So, as I said earlier, a provisional broker, and this is going to be tested numerous ways, can never, if you have provisional in front of your status, if your license says, and you can tell this by looking at somebody's real estate license, because it'll say type PB or type B. B means broker, non-provisional broker. PB means provisional broker, right? And so when you look at someone's license, if it says PB, then the only way they can be using that license is if they currently have who that is vouching for them and supervising them in every transaction.
Broker in
Big.
charge.
A broker in charge. Yeah, and Valeria asked, do the classes, the post-licensing classes, there are 3 of them, have to be in any order? They do not. They can be taken in any order. The other thing to remember, big test-taking item right here, folks, a provisional broker can only be affiliated with one broker in charge at a time. Now, here's the thing, and you haven't caught on to this yet, because I give you, it's all right because you're new. I wouldn't be saying these things specifically about provisional brokers if they were true of all brokers. I wouldn't say a provisional broker needs a BIC to be active if all brokers needed a BIC. What do you think if you read between the lines there? Are there going to be brokers who don't need a BIC in order to be on active status?
Yeah.
Yes, there are. Are there going to be brokers who can be affiliated with or work for more than one broker in charge?
Yes.
Yes, but provisional brokers cannot do either one of those things. A provisional broker, if they want to use their license, must work for one broker in charge and only one broker in charge. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep, it does.
That's the only way a provisional broker can use their license. Now, again, how do they get rid of the provisional status? Remind me again how they get rid of it?
Taking the post
Post
license.
license
Finish
90 hours.
licensing, okay, so how does a provisional broker activate their license? Well, once they get it, once they pass the test, they send in the form to the real estate commission with their license number on it and their BIC's signature. The BIC has to sign it. Why do you think we require the BIC to sign it? Because what is the BIC saying they're willing to do?
Taking
You're
responsibility.
ready to work.
Take responsibility for this person, be
Do you
responsible for
think
their
that is
screw up.
testable?
I'm sorry.
Do you think that form and that the BIC has to sign it is testable?
I don't think it's testable. No, I can't see them asking a question about the BIC having to sign the activation form, but I just put it here for reference purposes. You know, that's the process of activating, sending a
Okay.
form to the real estate commission saying this is the person who's supervising me.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, our non-provisional brokers, get used to that terminology. On the test, they will never say full brokers in the state section. They will not say brokers in the state section. They will always say either provisional or non-provisional. Which one has the training wheels?
Provisional.
Provisional.
Which one is the graduate with no training wheels?
Non-provisional.
Provisional.
Non-provisional, right? Non-provisional is what you aspire to be. It's what you want to be. And that simply means someone who has not only passed the license exam, but who has finished all 90 hours of what kind of classes?
Post-license.
Post-licensing.
Of post-licensing classes. Very good. Somebody who has finished all 90 hours of post-licensing classes, that person transitions from provisional to non-provisional. A non-provisional broker has the training wheels off. Here's what that means. Look at this statement right here. Supervision is now optional. They can work for a broker in charge if they want to, but they can also simply work for who?
Themselves.
Themselves. A non-provisional broker. This is the advantage. And people say to me all the time, why is it so hard to get a real estate license in North Carolina? Folks, this is one of the reasons. States that have salesperson's licenses, a salesperson can never work unsupervised. A salesperson always has to be supervised. North Carolina, we force everybody to get to the point where they can work unsupervised. You can work with your real. Seth is a non-provisional broker. Now, he has chosen to have supervision. He has chosen to work for a broker in charge, but is he required to have that supervision?
No.
No,
He just wanted.
he wants it and he's decided it makes sense for his business, but he does not have to have it because he is non-provisional. That means, for those of you keeping score, can a non-provisional broker be on active status and actively represent clients without being supervised by a broker in charge?
Yes.
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 Yes, they can. A provisional broker cannot, but a non-provisional broker can. Now, here's another question. William, don't overcomplicate it. If they don't have a BIC, how would they get paid? They would be paid what?
Directly.
Directly.
Okay.
The clients would hire them directly and they would be paid directly. They have no firm, they have no supervision, they have nobody between them and the clients. They would be hired directly by the clients and paid directly by the clients. If they choose.
Don't the clients have to pay the firm, though?
No, the client could pay a broker. The client could
broker.
hire a broker
Yeah.
directly, and the broker individually could represent that client, and the client could compensate that broker directly and individually. That is all possible for non-provisional brokers in North Carolina. Now, we're going to talk about why most of them choose not to go that route, but that's a different discussion down the road. What you need to understand right now is supervision is optional for these people. Is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
And not only that, they are the definition of an independent contractor at this point, folks. They, being a non-provisional broker, not only can they choose to work without any supervision, can they choose to work for multiple supervisors at the same time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah,
can.
according to what they say.
They are allowed to affiliate with more than one firm, more than one broker in charge, if they want to. There is no limitation. A non-provisional broker could work for 20 different real estate firms in this state at the same time, as far as the North Carolina Real Estate Commission is concerned. Now, might someone have a problem with that, though? Forget that.
Yeah, the pick. The pick.
Who might have a problem with that?
The big.
The
Their
big.
clients.
Firm.
Their
The
clients might have a problem with that. How about one or more of those BICs that they're working for? Could
I
those,
agree,
could those
yes.
people have a problem with that?
Yeah, because the
Absolutely.
loyalty. Yeah, loyalty.
Absolutely, because of the problems of competition, loyalty, all those kinds of things. So this is very
Yeah.
testable. This is very testable right here. You need to know that a non-provisional broker could have, and I tried to, look how clever I was. I found 3 pictures of the same guy with 3 different people yelling at him. Isn't that, look, you got to give me credit for that. That's pretty good. So a non-provisional broker could have 3 different, 4, 5 different BICs supervising them, as long as they have the permission of who?
Broker in charge.
Pick.
Each one.
Each one,
Each pick verbally.
not just one, but all of them.
Each one.
This guy, if he's got 3 BICs, how many of them have to be okay with that situation?
Three.
All of them.
Or 3.
All 3. All 3 have to say, yes, we are okay with working with more than one. We are okay with you doing that for obvious reasons, because one BIC could be concerned about competition and they're allowed to do that. It's their office. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be an internal policy. I will tell you this, if they ask about it on the test, you need the verbal permission of each one. Put that in your notes. It's in your notes because I already gave you your notes, but circle it, start. You need the verbal permission of each one of your brokers in charge as a non-provisional if you decide to work for more than one. Now, some of you, I understand, I know sort of where your brains go because we've been there and done that before, would say, well, why would they work for more than one office? And I'm going to tell you why you have that problem, why you have that roadblock in your brain right now. Because so many of you are so stuck in thinking you're getting a license to sell houses.
Mhm.
Folks, there are 100 different things you can do with a real estate license. Not every firm, does every restaurant serve food?
Yes.
But does every restaurant serve the same kind of food?
No.
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 No, you can't go to an Indian restaurant and get pizza. You can't go to a sushi restaurant and get a hamburger, right? They are specialized. Do you think that might also be true of real estate offices, in the sense that some of them do residential sales and some real estate offices do property management and some real estate offices do commercial transactions? Do you think it is possible that real estate offices are very much specialized in sort of the same way different types of restaurants are?
Yes.
Right?
Could it
And in the-
also be because of geographical location? Like
It
I'm down here in
absolutely
Southern
could be.
Pines, and if I wanted to work with somebody up in Raleigh, I would want to be affiliated with a firm up there.
That's exactly right. If,
Okay.
for example, if somebody came to me, my licensure is good for the whole state of North Carolina. But if somebody came to me and said, oh, if Seth came to me and said, I want to do a transaction in Charlotte, I would say, Seth, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't know anything about the market in Charlotte. I couldn't possibly supervise you doing that. So what do you think I would recommend he do? Go talk to what?
A big in Charlotte.
Go talk to a
Another
firm in
broker in
Charlotte.
charge.
Find a broker in charge in Charlotte, find a firm in Charlotte who knows that market, who would be willing to supervise you and help you with that transaction. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
And so that is the reason for non-provisional brokers choosing to be affiliated with more than one office. You'll find, as an example, some offices don't allow you to do property management, but a lot of the agents want to do some property management. So they may hang their license with Keller Williams of Cary for their sales, but with Block and Associates for their property management business. So it's about specialization. Does that help about why this occurs?
Yes.
Now, remember, who's not allowed to do that?
Provisional.
Provisional brokers who can do it.
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional. Good, good. Now, let's talk about how a non-provisional broker activates their license, because they have a little bit of a different path here. To activate a non-provisional license is a little bit of a different path. Number one, of course, they have to start as provisional because everybody starts as provisional. How do we make that transition to go from provisional to non-provisional?
Post-licensing
Post-licensing.
Finish
In
the
18
3
months.
30 hours, total of 90 post-licensing courses. Once we are non-provisional, we have 2 paths. We still have to submit a form to the Real Estate Commission saying we're active, but on that form, there's now going to be an option. They're going to ask us, are you supervised by a broker in charge? A non-provisional broker can say, no, I'm not, but I still want to be active. Or they can say, yes, I am, and here's my broker in charge. Is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
And if they send in that form that says, no, I'm not supervised by a broker in charge, but I'd still like to be active, who's their supervisor going to be?
Themselves.
Themselves. They're not supervised by anybody. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Now, on the test, you will see a differentiation between 2 statuses, one called current and one called active. It is very common for people to confuse these 2. They are related, but they are not the same. You can be current without being active, but you cannot be active without being current. I'm going to repeat that again, and then we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to come back and repeat it again later until it sinks in. You can be current, but not active. But you cannot be active and not current. Say that with me again. You can be what?
You can be current and not
You can be
active.
current, but not
Cannot be
active.
active and not current.
But you cannot be what?
Active and not
Active
and
and
not
not what?
current.
And not current. So
Current.
which one do you have to get to first? Which one comes first, current or
Current.
active?
Current.
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 You can be current and not be active, but you cannot be active if you're not first what?
Current.
Current.
So which one has to come first, folks?
Current.
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 You have to be current first.
You have to be
You gotta
current
have the
before we
current
can.
of energy, like.
In other words, if you're not current, can we even have a discussion about active?
No.
No.
No,
No.
not at all.
You have to get to current first. And
If we
the
don't
way-
have a current from the wall going to the computer, we can't tell if it's active or
you can't turn
inactive.
it on and activate it. There you go. You gotta be current first. Current is the most important step along the
also-
way.
Without that weird analogy, I also like to think that you must be current first before you can even have the privilege of being active or inactive.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because if you're not current, you don't have a license.
Right. You have to pay to play.
That's it. And current is all about paying. Current has nothing to do with classes. Current has nothing to do with education. Current has nothing to do with anything other than have you paid the North Carolina Real Estate Commission their money? Have you donated? Have you made your annual donation to the North Carolina Real Estate Commission's Christmas Party Fund? And that annual donation is $45. That $45 is paid sometime between May 15th and June 30th. You can't pay it before May 15th and you cannot pay it after June 30th. If you do not renew, and listen, folks, there's no grace periods here. If you get your license on June 29th, guess what you got to pay by June 30th?
Fee.
current fee.
Renewal fee.
Renewal fee.
You pay a renewal fee. Everybody pays a renewal fee. Are we good on that statement?
Mhm.
Yes.
And by the
Yes.
way, when I say everybody, I should say everybody and everything, because firm licenses have to be renewed as well by June 30th. Okay.
Well,
So everybody and everything, every real estate license in the state of North Carolina, and currently there are about 140,000 of them, if you want to do the math on how much comes in the form of renewal fees on an annual basis. There are about 140,000 between broker licenses and firm licenses that need to be renewed by June 30th of every year to the tune of $45 each. A license that is not renewed by June 30th, I cannot stress how important this word is right here, will be considered to be what?
Expired.
Expired. Current is the opposite of expired. The license is either current or expired. One of the classic mistakes that people make on the test is thinking that current and inactive are somehow related. They're not. What is the opposite of current?
Expired.
Expired. Expired is the opposite of current, and expired is bad. Really, really bad.
like no license bad.
So I know y'all are awesome, and I know you think we're awesome, but can we all agree that you would prefer to never do what you're doing right now ever again? You do not want to take this class and be at this point ever again in your life. Can we agree on that?
Agreed.
Most certainly.
Yes.
Folks, there is only one way you will ever find yourself in a pre-licensing class again in the state of North Carolina. It is by failing to do what by June 30th of every year for the rest of your life.
Your license.
Paying that $45 renewal fee, because expired means you don't have a license. So would it be a bad idea to lose your real estate license all because of not paying $45?
Yes.
Do you, and listen, there are people in that situation, and I'm always like, what? Just listen, I learned this from an early stage. When I first got into the business, I was in an office. The lady's name was Marilyn Avis in Chapel Hill. She was 82 when I started in the business, and she still came to the office every single day. And I asked her one time, I said, Marilyn, how long are you planning to work? And this is what she said to me, and it's always stuck. I've never forgot it. She said, honey, it is in my will that for the first 2 years after I die, my children have to renew my real estate license just in case I need to come back and sell a house. And so that has just always stuck with me, that if I don't do anything else right, every time May 15th rolls around, I am going to go pay that $45 renewal fee. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
So that my license never goes to expired status. Because again, we cannot even have a conversation about active because you don't have a license anymore. Your license is what?
Expired.
Expired. Okay. So if you pay the renewal fee, okay, by June 30th, in order to stay in a good status, if you start as current and active and you pay the renewal fee, you will remain current and eligible to remain active. The same thing is true for a firm. However, if you start as a current and active licensee and you fail to pay the renewal fee, your status will be what? So let's say right here on April 12th, you are current and active. And then on May 26th, you pay the renewal fee. Are you going to remain current? What do y'all think?
Yes.
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 You would remain current because you had paid. Let's say here on June 10th, you're current and active and you forget, you do not pay the renewal fee. What is your status going to be come July 1 when you've missed that deadline? Expired. And notice what it says. You are not eligible to remain active, even if you do everything else right, because your license is expired. Are we all good with that?
I have a question. So if you have your firm license and you have your personal license, all right?
Correct.
You remember to pay your $45 for your personal, but you fail to pay the 45. I assume it's 45 for a firm, is it?
It is.
Okay, so you, excuse me, you forget to pay your firm license. Firm license is inactive. Your personal license
Not
is
inactive.
expired, and your personal one is active. Question: do you have to take the pre-licensing class because you failed to get your firm license?
No, because a
okay.
firm is a company and companies never take classes. You would have to
Okay.
fix the firm's expired status. There are a couple ways to fix an expired status. If it's paid late, you just get hit with a reinstatement fee. However, those fees get heavier and heavier as time goes on, and there will reach a point where you can no longer reinstate that license. Any license, firm license or personal license, which stays expired 2 years, vanishes. It ceases to exist. There is no more reinstating it. So you would have to reapply for, and if that was a personal license, you would have to take the pre-licensing class again. If it was a firm license, you'd have to go through the steps to reapply for firm licensure. Everybody good on that?
Mm-hmm.
So pay the $45. It's really important. Now, that just gets us to current. We're still not all the way to what is that status we all covet so that we can actually work and get paid?
Active.
Active.
Once we are current, then we have to worry about our education requirements. We already talked about one of those. If I'm provisional, in order to remain active, I have to complete my post licensing within the first what in order to remain active as a provisional?
18.
18 months.
months. Okay, otherwise my license would fall inactive. And then for everybody else, here is the requirement for the rest of your existence as a real estate broker. If you would like to remain on active status, which means if you would like to be eligible to be compensated, your ongoing continuing education, that's a buzzword, different than what's the other kind of classes?
Post-licensing.
Post-licensing is not ongoing, folks. It's 3 classes and you're done. Continuing education is called continuing for a reason. How long does it continue?
Ever.
Ever. Continuing education never stops. The continuing education rule is that every licensee must take and complete 8 hours of continuing education, which is different than post-licensing. One does not satisfy the other. Every licensee, whether you're provisional or non-provisional, must complete 8 hours of continuing education by June 10th each year. You need to know that deadline. You need to know the number of hours. So again, what's the deadline for taking our continuing education each year? And we all have the same deadline.
June
June
10th.
30th.
June 10th of each year. June 10th for continuing education. What's the deadline for paying the renewal fee?
June 30th.
June 30th.
June 30th. What's the deadline for taking post licensing?
18 months.
18 months.
18 months from when? My birthday, from
From the
Christmas
day that
Day,
you pass
from
the
what?
test.
When you get your
From the time
license.
you
The day you
pass
From
pass the
From the
activation.
time they got their license. So 3 different deadlines that you got to keep track of. Post licensing, individual deadline, 18 months from the date you got your license. Renewal, shared deadline for renewal. Everybody got the same deadline. What's the deadline for renewal?
June 30th.
June 30.
Okay.
June 10th.
No, June 30th for
30th.
renewal.
30.
Then it's
June
continuing
30th for
education.
renewal. Renewal is money. That's June 30th. Continuing education,
June
June
10th.
10.
June 10th.
June 10th. And folks, I will tell you, I know it is nitpicky as all get out, but they will mix all those dates together on the test. You will get 3 answer
Yeah.
choices, and one will say, take your continuing education by June 30th. One will say, take your continuing education by June 10th. And one will say, take your continuing education but within 18 months of license issuance. So you've got to know which deadline goes with which thing. Okay.
Travis,
Yes.
quick question. So, for the renewal fee, you can't pay before May 15th. For the continuing education, is there any gap in there that you can only take continuing education?
July 1 to
first.
June 10th.
Okay.
So there's 20 days you can't take CE. You can't take CE between June 11th and June 30th. And that's why, you know why they do that? So they have time to update the license records. They have time to get a confirmation that people have taken the classes and they can update the license records. That way on July 1, they can start the new year. That's why there's a gap with the CE. So there's a gap where you can't take CE of 20 days from the 11th through the 30th. Okay. So continuing education, June 10th. There is one trick gotcha question when it comes to CE, and it's actually a good thing. And I've tried to provide pictures of calendars to help you because it's not a hard rule, but people miss it anyway. What's the deadline for taking continuing education? Help me out here. What date?
June 10th.
June 10th.
June 10th. Unless you're a brand new licensee. Brand new licensees do not need continuing education their first year. But here's where the problem is. You're going to come in with that, applying that in your head. Their first year ends on what date for CE purposes?
June 30.
No, CE purposes.
June 10th.
Oh,
June what?
10.
10.
10th. So they don't have to take CE by June 10th the first time around. In other words, if you get your license right now, August 2021, do you need CE by June 10th of 2022?
No.
Oh, by 23.
Yes.
No, you get to
Yes.
skip that one. You don't need CE until June 10th of 2023. You skip the first CE deadline that you hit with your license. But here's where that's going to come up for a problem. Somebody who gets their license on June 9th of 2021, when is their CE deadline?
June 10th,
June 10, 2021.
10, 2022.
2021, no?
Repeat it again. 22.
If they got their license on June 9th of 2021, skip the first June 10th.
23.
Which one are you
So
skipping?
22.
June
22, June 10, 22.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
That's too many.
see? Stop it.
I'm so confused.
Stop it. You make it hard. It's not hard. Skip one
The first
time.
year.
If they get their license on June 9th of 2021, don't say a word. June 9th, 2021. Skip June 10th. What's the June 10th they're going to be skipping? June 10th of 2020 what?
One.
One. The next day. That's the deadline. You don't get to go a year out. That's your problem. You want to make it more than it is. You skip the very next one, even if that's the next what?
Day.
Day. So if they're skipping 21, which one is their deadline?
June 10th, 2022.
June 10th of 2022. And I knew it was going to be like that because it's always like that. So I've made you pictures.
But there's a reason our students get this right, because we are not
'Cause
light
I
on it.
hammer it into you. And it is the easiest thing to understand, but
gosh.
people miss it so often because they make it more complex than it is. So look at this. Here's somebody who's licensed in March of 2020. Does everybody see that with the blue arrow over here? They're licensed right here, March of 2020. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So when is the CE deadline for the state? It would be June 10th of 2020, right?
2021. 2020.
That's the deadline, right?
Uh-huh.
But for this person, that's not the deadline because they just got their what?
The license.
License.
They just got their license. So skip that one and go to the next June 10th after they got their license. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very clear.
Skip one and then hit the next one. So I got you another one right here. Look at this one. Okay. Somebody is licensed in September of 2020.
The first skip is 2021.
They're skipping June 10th of 2021 because that's the next June they get to, right?
Correct.
So skip that one. Don't take CE there. Go all the way over to here to June of 20 what?
22.
22. June of 2022. All right, I'm gonna throw a date out there for y'all, and I want you to tell me their CE deadline, their first CE deadline. Everybody ready? License issued May 31st, 2022. May 31st, 2022. I want to know their CE deadline. May 31st, 2022. I want to know their CE deadline.
June 10th,
2023.
Yeah.
June 10th, 2020. June 10th, 2025.
23.
24. I
Okay.
don't know why I just said 25.
Put it
Having a moment.
on a calendar, because some of you are so mentally
It is so simple.
can't think about a
June
calendar.
23.
23.
23. Because you skipped the June.
Yes.
All right, I need everybody but Travis to be
2023.
talking right now.
June 10th, 2023. Folks, if they are licensed on May 31st of 2022, what is the June 10th that they're skipping? June 10th, 2020
22.
what?
2022.
2022. 10 days later, they're skipping that one. What's the next one that they hit?
23. June
23.
3.
Folks, don't try to like add 2 years. Stop it. Skip a June 10th. All right, here's another one. License issued June 9th, 2021. What's the CE deadline?
June 10th, 2022.
2022.
June 10th, 2022.
Whoever said 23, I am so mad at you right now.
June 10th of 2022. One more. License issued December 18th, 2021. December 18th, 2021. First CE deadline.
2023.
June 10th, 2022.
June 10th, 2023. 2023, because if their license is issued in December of 21, the June 10th they skip is June 10th of 22, and they land on June 10th of 23. You have got to get that nailed down. And I'm just going to say something here. If you miss that question, you shouldn't get a real estate license. You are not capable of representing people in a real estate transaction if you can't figure out how to look at a damn calendar and skip June 10th.
It is such the honest to God truth. If you cannot understand when you can skip your first CE, you should not get your real estate license.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. There's a reason that that question is on the test, and it is literally to eliminate the people among us who cannot do the business. That's the elimination question right there. Okay, I mean seriously, I mean, in all seriousness, you shouldn't miss that question. It's not overly-
Honestly, it's frustrating. It's
Get
so
one,
easy.
get the next.
Well, I think because there's so many hard questions, you really want to make sure that you nail the easy one.
Right, and that one is so super easy. You should hope you get that one, right? Because it's just a matter of skip one. I mean, it's like, you know, just imagine your birthday's on June 10th and you got to skip one birthday party, but only skip one birthday party. Don't skip two birthday parties, you know, and that's it. It's like, do it, okay?
So
look at
here's a
this
trick question. What if you get your license on June 10th of 2020?
They won't issue it. They won't issue it. No, they will not, because of that reason. For that very reason, because of that rule, they will not issue it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
They'll wait. They'll wait. So look at this question. When does Samantha need to take her first CE course? Samantha is a newly licensed provisional broker in North Carolina, and she passed the license exam on July 12th of 2021. In order to have her license remain on active status, when must she complete 8 hours of continuing education? Okay.
C.
So
C.
June 10, 2023.
if it's a CE question, we know it's going to be June 10th, right? If she was licensed in July of 2021, the one she's skipping is in 2022. So this is the skip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense for everybody? Here is the deadline, June 10th, 2023. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
You got it now.
Very good. If somebody, and I know we're right at the 3 o'clock deadline, but we're really almost done here, okay? If somebody misses the CE deadline, the penalty is they must stop working. Now, they must stop working on July 1st. Their license would fall inactive on July 1st, okay? July 1st is when their license would fall inactive if they do not complete their CE on time. That means they have to stop all contact with with clients. They cannot call them, they cannot email them, they cannot attend a closing. They have to stop. That's one reason why it would probably be a good thing to be affiliated with a firm. Because let's just say, I know it would never happen because he works for a real estate school, but let's say Seth forgot to take his CE. Could he ask Leslie, who did take her CE, to pick up this transaction, run with it until he can get his stuff fixed and get back active? Could he do that if he was affiliated with an office and there were other people?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So look at this question. Shanika is a provisional broker who obtained her North Carolina real estate license on July 12th of 21 and is affiliated with her broker in charge at Next Level Real Estate, LLC. She's completed post-licensing courses 301 and 303, but has yet to begin 302. When is the last possible time she can complete 8 hours of continuing education in order to maintain her active status? First of all, they have given you so much garbage
Information
here that you don't need, right? Does anything about post-licensing have to do with CE?
No.
No.
Nothing.
No, they're two different things. So since the question is about when is the last possible time she can complete 8 hours of CE, first of all, does she need 8 hours of CE? Oh, that's got a typo in it. That's got a typo in it. Let me fix that. Does she need to take CE by June 10th of 2022? What do y'all think?
No.
No.
She's the first year.
She's not a provisional broker yet.
Well, even if she's provisional, you still take CE, but she skips June 10th of 22, right? She needs to take it by June 10th of 20 what?
3.
23. Right? She needs it by June 10th of 2023.
So provisional brokers do have to take continuing ed.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody does. Everybody does. Look at this question. Patricia's a provisional broker who takes a listing for her firm, New Heights Real Estate, on May 15th. The property goes under contract and closes on July 2nd. Patricia forgets to take her required continuing education and her license falls inactive as of July 21. Can New Heights choose to pay her that commission? So I'm gonna go back and recap it. She put it under contract and it on May 15th, okay? It closes on July 2nd. Can she be paid for the work she did before her license went inactive? Can she be compensated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is the firm required to pay her?
No.
No, because the Real Estate Commission never requires payment. That's an internal thing. The Real Estate Commission does not set rules about who should be paid. They set rules about who can be paid. Is everybody with me on that?
Okay.
How about this though? Patricia's a provisional broker who takes a listing for a firm on May 15th. The property goes under contract and closes on July 2nd. Patricia forgets to take her required continuing education. Her license falls inactive on July 1. She attends the July 2nd closing just to give the sellers a closing gift and make things go smoothly. Does that change
No,
the
ma'am.
answer? Can she
No.
be paid?
Yes.
No.
She cannot be paid.
It
She
changes and it can't happen.
He cannot be paid,
Get
folks.
paid.
What is different about this situation now? On the previous one, she didn't do any work after her license went inactive. But on this one, she continued to work. And the
Work and
minute
go
she
to the closing.
continued to work, it's no longer a question of, does the firm want to pay her? The Real Estate Commission says what?
It can't pay.
They can't legally pay her.
Cannot
She was
be paid.
inactive.
She cannot be paid. Okay. And obviously, a lot of this is based on people following rules. I mean, you know, can people continue to work while they're inactive? Well, I'm sure they do, but if the Real Estate Commission finds out, you could easily be disciplined and lose your license over that. It's just not worth the chance. Okay. And so what I've given you here, just to kind of wrap up this section, because we are right, this is literally the end, is sort of a process, because I know people like a little bit of a flow chart hierarchy here. So the renewal fee needs to be paid by June 30th, just to make somebody what? Paying the fee gets them to what?
Current.
Current, not active, just current. Go back and look at that. I cannot stress that enough. There will,
It
I mean,
will be
folks,
tested.
literally, this is enough to make you pass or fail the state section of the
Swear to the Lord above.
stuff right here, kill you on the state section.
I'm emailing somebody right now this stuff, or earlier, because they're taking their licensing exam this week of this stuff that they need to review.
All
So-
this little, and you know,
and sorry,
why
I'm
this-
exhausted.
Let me tell y'all why this is tested so much. Because these are the questions that the people at that work at the Real Estate Commission get 46,000 times a day. What do I need to do to activate my license? My license is expired. How'd that happen? What am I supposed to do? And they literally hate you all. They hate you. And so they want to make sure you never call them when you get your license. So they have put 46,000 of these questions on the test so that you know the rules, so that you don't have to call them and ask the same questions over. And I mean, that's really what it is. It's petty, but that's why they're there. That's why they ask. So paying the renewal fee gets you to current. Okay. Now, once you're current, you are eligible to be active. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Getting you current just makes you eligible to be active. Okay. Now, once somebody is current and they take their education, then they get to active status. Does everybody see that there's a couple of steps along the way here that somebody has to flow through? You have to get to what status first?
Current.
Current. And then you can worry about taking classes. So people ask me this all the time, or say this all the time. I haven't renewed my license yet because I haven't taken my CE. Does that make any sense?
No.
No. Which one should you be paying attention to first?
Renewal.
Renewing.
Money. Even if you can't take the CE, wouldn't it be better to be current and inactive versus expired? Wouldn't that be better?
Yes.
Of course.
Somebody told me one time, it was the lady who wrote part of the manual. She said, if you're in trouble with the commission, pay your renewal fee. No
That's
matter
it.
what, just pay it.
They want the money badly. They need the money. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So look at this one. If we don't pay the renewal fee, we are what?
Expired.
Expired. Well, let's say we don't pay the renewal fee and we take the CE anyway. Guess what? We
It's
still are
expired.
expired. We didn't accomplish anything.
Nope.
And that's why the most important status is the first one, which is what?
Current.
Current.
Current
Pay
status.
current.
Pay the money, get the license current, and then you can worry about getting the education in place. And I will tell you, folks, it is entirely possible to have somebody be current but inactive. We have people who haven't taken CE in the last 10 years. Now, they can't use their license, but they have one. And guess what? All they would have to do to start using their license, if they wanted to,
Just take their
Continuing education.
take their continuing education. And they can do that anytime, and boom, they're right back out there practicing. Does that make sense
So
for
they-
everybody?
Yeah, they just need to take the current years. Do they have to go back and take the last 5 years?
2 years worth. No matter how much they've missed, the maximum they can be made, so 16 hours. That's the max. So like, if you're not going to use your license, if you're going to move to Washington State, should you still pay the $45 even if you live in Washington State for the next 10 years?
Yes.
Yeah, just in case you need to come back and use your North Carolina real estate license, all you'd have to do is take some CE and boom, your license is right back active. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so look at this one. This is another possible path. Somebody pays their fee, that makes them current. Okay, they don't take their education. They're still current, but now what's their status? Somebody who has paid
Inactive.
but not taken the education.
Inactive.
Inactive.
That's where
Inactive.
inactive comes into play. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Now, do you understand what I mean when I say you can be active, or you can be current without being active, but you can't be active without being current? Does that make sense when I say it that way now?
A lot of sense.
Okay.
Good.
So just a reminder, active status is the goal. It's the only status that allows us to perform services for which we're going to be compensated. We can only be compensated for work that we do while we are active. We cannot be compensated legally for any work that we do while we're inactive. That would make us ineligible for compensation. And that is section 1.2, folks.
Oh, woohoo. That was a lot of material today.
It is a lot of material.
Oh, good golly. You have a lot of homework, y'all.